Okay, folks, here we are, game week 224. Can't believe it's that many. It just seems to keep growing. I think it goes up by one every half week or something like that. But here we go. Let's start. Sorry if my voice is a bit raspy. I'm a little sick, just a little sore throat or something. I've got this little hot toddy here, Canadian hot toddy. It's made with maple syrup instead of honey. So hopefully this will help me get through. So we're going to start looking at last weekend, of course. And, nothing jumps out at me too much other than to say that, Challenger Europe, I kind of thought would start to increase given that, we have Russian league, we have Turkish league, we have a lot of leagues, Belgian and whatnot. But they've kind of kept the amount of card supply high so that it's actually fairly attainable. Seems to kind of hover around that 320 compared to, say, Champion Europe, which is obviously so much more, and of course Global All-Star. So feels attainable. U23 is always a little under, which is kind of nice if you can actually get a decent team, but it costs a lot to get players that can come together and get you into the 300s at that level. Down in limited, again, they're all just a little bit below. This is for Sorare to kind of encourage people to get in and stuff. So, 280 at the U23 and things like that. America didn't have as many games, so 294 and whatnot. But again, nothing too surprising here. So looking ahead to this weekend, kind of same thing, nothing too surprising at the limited level. America is kind of an interesting one, both if we sneak our gaze up here, both at the rare spot and the limited. Kind of nice to get into. There's only 4 MLS games. There's 4 Mexican games. And then there's kind of a full slate of Argentina and Brazil. So if you have a good roster, this might be one to kind of take a look at. But other than that, nothing else really jumps out. This is early. This is over 24 hours until the cutoff. So sorry, these numbers will certainly come down. Let's look at how I did last, the players I recommended last time. So remember, we talked about Juventus. So let's actually just see how they did here. So Quadrado got 66, fantastic. Betancourt 72, fantastic. Arthur, I kind of said it was a bit of a shot in the dark, long shot, and certainly cheaper and whatnot. He didn't play. So, but more specifically, so this looks good. I'm patting myself on the back, especially like starting to kind of come into my own a little. Like here, I was sort of a lot of misses, a few hits, things like this, and then some big hits, some big misses, and I'm starting to kind of find a bit of a groove where I think I can maybe I'm wrong. I mean, this wasn't the greatest week, I suppose. So yeah, okay, maybe I should stop patting myself on the back. But what we did see, if we look at the game just yesterday, in some ways not a lot to take from it, because actually this is not a lot that you typically saw from Juventus. So as you can see, like Murata plays almost every game, so he was on the bench. Sandro plays almost every game, he's on the bench. Rabiot. So the fact that in a typical lineup, all 3 of them would start, and sometimes Sandro comes off the bench, but especially Murata and Rabiot. But Keane typically comes off the bench. He started. Kulusevski's sort of been off and on and things like that. Even Bernadeschi a little bit. So I don't know how much to take from this. I thought Quadrado would actually move up, and then Betancourt would kind of move up to Kulusevski's place, basically everyone moving up on the right side. And that didn't happen. So the good thing, if you did invest in Quadrado, is like he plays every game anyways. I just thought he was going to move up and get kind of more opportunity maybe on the offensive side. But to see both of them in there, I think that's where we're going to see going forward. And then we'll start to see Murata, like kind of the more regular lineup this weekend. We'll have to have a look. We'll see. But I'll take it for a win. Might as well. Let's move on to who I'm recommending this week. So first thing I want to mention is this big news here in Canada. So Toronto FC have gone through a bunch of changes. Bob Bradley's come in as a coach, pretty well experienced U.S. coach, U.S. national coach, and MLS coach. already making big moves. And one of the biggest ones, or the biggest one, is that they decided not to renew or to take the option rather on Ao Akinola. So he's a 21-year-old national team striker for Canada. For those of you not following Canada, we are hitting our stride as a national, soccer powerhouse and powerhouse in CONCACAF. Maybe we are currently leading in the World Cup qualifying tournament, the Ocho. We're ahead of Mexico. We're ahead of the U.S. as well as many others, and we're feeling really good. And this is the best we've done in a very, very long time. And so we're definitely a team to watch. And so Akinola, unfortunately, tore his ACL. Otherwise, he would have been on the roster and really an up and coming forward for Canada. The fact that he got cut. What's interesting here is that this is from Transfer Market. Before that he had gotten significant interest from Trabzonspor from Turkey, and I think there will be a lot of other interest. He's market value of 5.5 million. He's the fourth most valuable Canadian forward on the planet. That sounds pretty bold. I mean, the big ones, of course, Jonathan David, Kyle Aaron, Tejan Buchanan. I mean, those are pretty stellar players. He's definitely obviously a notch below those, but regardless, this might be someone you want to go and sneakily buy into right now. Obviously, as a torn ACL, so he's still recovering. He's still fairly cheap. I bought two rares of him back in, when he tore his ACL. I think that was July or something. So I just think, I think he's got a ton of opportunity. And of course, I'm biased, but so, take it with a grain of salt. But I just think there's this could be a really sneaky buy if you're looking at this one here. So, and then also Toronto dropped a couple guys, like Liam Fraser plays on the national team as well. He doesn't get a ton of playing time, but I mean, he's still there. Julian Dunn is kind of a U23 Canadian player and tons of promise. Endo as well, a little bit and stuff. So, he got a bit of playing time in MLS, but these two, I mean, it'll be interesting to see where they land, and depending where they land, they might be good investments, but I might take a wait and see approach on them in particular. Okay, so moving on. So where I want to look was the Jupiler Pro League, because they've got kind of a nice kind of string of matchups over the next few weeks, and in particular Bruges and Union Saint Gilloise, something like that. We'll see. My Canadian French, my Quebecois is not so good, but obviously two top clubs, and here's what I like. So Bruges play actually 5 straight matches, like 5 straight game weeks. So, weekend, midweek, weekend, midweek, so on. Obviously a tough one against PSG next midweek. So, that might be tough, except, excuse me, I believe PSG have qualified. So, maybe it's actually a decent winnable game, if you will, or drawable game. But regardless of that one, even so, Serang, Waregem, Leuven, Anderlecht. So what we see here, look at this: Serang, Waregem, Leuven, and then Anderlecht is pretty good in 6th. But 3 of those matches pretty decent. And again, it's 5 matches in a row, so it's quite nice. And then Gilloise is. So what do we have here? So we have, here we are, where we are, STVV, Michelin, Waregem, Bruges, and these are 4. So they played like this Friday, and then they played the following weekend. So they missed the one midweek. So they basically got 4 out of the next 5 game weeks. But STVV, Michelin, Waregem, and Cercle Bruges, lower clubs. So as you can see, as we said, Waregem, Cercle Bruges, STVV right there, and then Michelin's 4th, so that'll be a bit of a tougher one. So I like these. These are 2 clubs I kind of want to invest in as sort of short-term, maybe cards you could flip, and that's kind of what I'm focusing on for this one. Is maybe you just buy in quickly, take advantage of a nice run of good matches, and then flip them in a few weeks. We'll see. So. Let's go back to Bruges. So pretty well-known guy here, Charles de Ketelaere. if we get to transfer market, worth a ton, 27.5 million. One of I think the most, with Noah Lang, valuable player on Bruges. So, and such a great investment, only 20 years old, and maybe a slight dip. But I mean, like, this is kind of what you want in game weeks. Like, I mean, obviously you'd love them all up here, but kind of hit or miss. Like, you either want to go big or go home. You want to win the big cards or move like up the rankings. You want a podium if you can, and he can kind of give you, or at least contribute to that some weeks, and then other weeks it just doesn't work out. I think sometimes investing in only those middling sort of 50s and 55s really don't get you a whole lot other than the Ethereum bonus. So I really like this. I like investing in a player like this that is either on or off. And now he's pricey, especially in the rare space, but and in limited comparatively, but compared to some of his other colleagues, kind of similar profiles and things like that, he's actually one of the cheaper ones. That's why I highlighted him. And his price is at least like come down a little, which seems strange. And same on the limited side. It's come down significantly. I think it's just started to rise a touch, but see if this is going to work for me. Yeah, so it's kind of come down, and then, yeah, it's kind of where it's at its lowest point. So if you want to get a guy like this, I think now's the time. And the other one for me, Eater Balanta. Yeah, so here's what I like about this guy. So nothing too spectacular. I think his transfer market is like 6.6 million or something like that. He's 28 years old, so he's just kind of a steady guy. First off, we see pricing has dropped quite a bit. And the rare as well, I think, is a little more flat, but or actually, sorry, it's actually rising. So, you kind of have this kind of counter where it's rising on the rare side, but it's actually been dropping on the limited. So I kind of like grabbing it. It's like dirt cheap in the limited side. And here's why I particularly like it. It's just a quick short-term flip. Look at these 4 games here, right? A lot of people make purchases based on L5 and the L5 average. Well, I mean, he had DNP and then the 37 here and some other bad scores. As soon as these come off, so one more game, say in the 50 or something like that, this will be a really nice average, and you could flip them just after this next game, or wait a few more and get even more, steadier. It might improve his L15 or whatever. But so to me, I kind of like this when you see that actually there's about 4 games in particular where he's been in a row where he's been great. So like I said, this one will fall off on the next game. So I bought him just like an hour ago with that in mind. And I think he just seems steady, and maybe grab him on kind of a good run. So shifting clubs here, St. Gilloise. Is that right? Maybe. So, nice young guy, kind of sort of similar in a way, right? So what we see here, to my previous point, we have 3 good games. We have a dud, and then we have another one. So in 2 game weeks, this one will fall off. And if he kind of stays on this upward trend, again, they have some, decent matches. We could see this 53 be, a 60 or something like that. That might be a great time to flip him. Still, like I said, he was pretty cheap to acquire at the limited point, and rare as well. Starting to spike. Rare has been spiking a lot. I've been noticing. I think there's a lot of people starting to get into that, whereas quite the opposite's happening in limited. It's like you see this often. I guess this is rising a little, but I'm seeing a ton where, the prices are just dropping from that real peak around kind of early October. And it now seems the attention's being focused on the rare market. Next up is Christian Burgess. So he's 30. So, what I like about the other guy, he's 23. So even if my prognostication does not pan out, he's young, and you can kind of like sit on him for a while and see how it builds, and should be somebody that gains in value regardless. 30-year-old Christian Burgess, so definitely more steady. I mean, look at this, like just nice and steady. You'd like this. And again, same thing, 4 great games, a bit of a dud. So as soon as next game happens, if he gets a 58 or something like that, now that falls off. This rises, and you could flip him. That probably makes him worth 0.010, or this one up to 0.110 or something like that. So this is kind of where I like these kind of short-term opportunities to flip. And given the run of games that they have coming up, I think this is a great opportunity to do so. And worst of all, if you don't, if the market hasn't really moved on it, then you still have a decent player that you can start week on week and just kind of live with that for a bit. And then the last one, this is not, well, I mean, it is a recommendation, but this is not some like genius recommendation. It's just like you start looking at players and then you bounce on one and you go, oh my God, like look at this. Imagine having this guy in your lineup. Holy cow. He's expensive, right? You have to pay up at limited. You have to pay up big time in rare. Oh man. But this is I just had to highlight this. I mean, this is not advice. Like this is just obvious land. But holy cow, if you have some money to burn, like look at this. Imagine having this. Oh, and he's a forward as well. So, and he's 25. Like it's just all the things line up there. So, anyways, just wanted to highlight him. This club, they're in first place. They actually have a ton of guys that are just performing the lights out, but they are expensive. But if you did want to invest in one club or focus on one, this would be the one, because there's a bunch like this, but he's the king of the crop. So anyways, there you go. Thanks for listening to my ramble. This was a bit longer. I should be less sick next time. Anyways, best of luck this weekend. I hope you win. I hope these ones pay off for you. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.